Okay, so when you see the protests in Iran on the news today, it's easy to think it's just about what's happening right now. But to really get it, we gotta go back. This is an explainer on the deep, deep historical roots of a century-long struggle. So what is really driving all of this? The thing is, the story of protests in Iran isn't just about the last few years. Not at all. It's a much bigger story, a struggle that's been going on for 100 years over sovereignty, dignity, and freedom. To unpack this, we're going to look at four pivotal moments. It all starts back in 1905 with a push for a constitution. Then we'll jump to a really critical year, 1953, with a foreign-backed coup that just crushes their democracy. That leads right into the 1979 Islamic Revolution, and finally to today's Woman My Freedom movement. The key thing to remember is that each of these events is a link in a chain, one leading to the next, and all of it shaped the Iran we see today. Alright, let's rewind the clock. We're starting way back in the early 20th century. Picture Iran. It was actually known as Persia back then, and it was caught in this massive struggle to control its own future, pushing back against some really powerful foreign empires. You know, it really boils down to this one core conflict. On one side, you have the Iranian people pushing for national sovereignty. It's a pretty simple idea, right? They wanted to control their own country and, crucially, their own resources. But on the other side, you had Britain and Russia, and they looked at Iran and saw a massive strategic prize, mostly because of one thing, oil. So they used these economic deals to get a grip on that oil and pull the political strings. And this whole struggle, it really comes to a head in 1953. This is a single event that would cast a long, dark shadow over Iran's relationship with the West for decades. I mean, right up to the present day. So here's how it went down. In 1951, Iran had a democratically elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. He did something incredibly popular. He nationalized the oil industry, which had been controlled by the British. Well, Britain and the US were not happy about that. So the CIA and Britain's MI6 teamed up and organized a secret coup. They overthrew Mossadegh, brought back the Shah to rule as an absolute monarch, and guess what? Control of the oil went right back to foreign companies. This memory, this scar of a democratic dream being crushed by outsiders has never ever faded in Iran. Okay, so after the coup, you get 25 years of the Shah's rule, and this period of autocratic power, well, it ended up sowing the seeds of its own destruction. Life under the Shah was, well, it was a real paradox. On the one hand, he was backed by the West and was pushing for all this rapid modernization and westernization, but a lot of that was just on the surface. Underneath it all, his secret police, the Savak, were brutally crushing anyone who disagreed with him. And this huge gap started to grow between a super rich elite and everybody else. It created this pressure cooker environment where all this anger was just building and building. And you know, a lot of this cultural battle was fought right on women's bodies. Back in 1936, the Shah's father actually banned the veil to make the country seem more modern. Then his son promoted this very westernized idea of beauty. So women's clothing became incredibly politicized. And that created this deep resentment that would later become fuel for the fire of revolution. By 1979, that pressure cooker I mentioned, it just exploded. All that frustration boiled over, and you had this incredibly broad coalition of people. Islamists, leftists, students, nationalists, who all came together for one single reason, to get rid of the Shah. So the revolution succeeds, the Shah is gone, but that unity, it didn't last. The coalition fell apart, and the clergy, led by Ayatollah Khomeini, took control. They set up a whole new system, a rigid theocracy, that came with its own set of frustrations for the Iranian people. So what they got wasn't another monarchy, it was a theocracy. That's a system where religious authorities had the final say. All the power ended up with a supreme leader. And with this new system came a whole bunch of strict social rules, like the mandatory hijab for women, and just like under the Shah, political opposition was once again crushed. On top of all the social restrictions, there was intense economic hardship. The government wasn't managing things well, and then you had these crippling US sanctions piled on top. Just look at this number. Between 2018 and 2020, over 10 million Iranians were pushed into poverty. That's a staggering figure. It basically gutted the middle class and just added even more fuel to the fire for protests. And all of that brings us right up to today. Because now, a whole new generation is leading the charge for change. A generation that was born long after the revolution, that's connected to the world through the internet, and that wants something totally different. In September of 2022, a 22-year-old woman, Mahsa Amini, died in police custody. She'd been arrested for supposedly not wearing her hijab correctly. Her death was the spark that ignited a nationwide movement, really led by Iran's Gen Z. This is a generation that just doesn't see a future for themselves under the current system. You know, every movement needs an anthem, right? For this one, it was a song called Baraya, which actually ended up winning a Grammy. And if you look at the lyrics, you see what these protests are all about. It's not some complex political ideology. It's about, and I'm quoting here, the longing for a normal life. It's about personal freedom and the simple dignity of having it short. And the way this generation protests is it's completely different. It's very personal, it's visual, and it's practically designed to go viral on social media. You see women cutting their hair in public as an act of defiance. You see headscarves being burned in bonfires. People even started turban knocking, literally knocking the turbans off the heads of clerics as a direct challenge to their authority. And it's all captured in that one global chant: women, life, free. So when you put this entire century of history together, what you're left with is this fundamental tension, something that's right at the heart of Iran's modern identity. And this, right here, is the core dilemma. On the one hand, you have this massive, powerful demand for change that is absolutely homegrown. Young Iranians are saying, we want a different future, and they are pushing for it from within. But on the other hand, you have the ghost of that 1953 coup. That painful history has made Iranians deeply, deeply suspicious of any kind of outside interference, even if it comes from people who say they want to help. So that leaves us with the central question, the tightrope that Iran is walking today. How does a nation, caught between its painful past and its hopes for the future, fight for change from within, while also guarding itself against those ghosts of foreign interference? That's the challenge they're facing right now.